This is radically different than anything else that I see. To say we are one at our source is a big difference. That's why I'm a Rissho Koseikai member.
So today I would love to hear your story of, your religious, spiritual background, and also at what point and how you encountered with the Buddhism. Before that, I want to take a look at this particular passage from founder Rissho Koseikai, Nikkyo Niwano. Identity of religious truth. Nikkyo Niwano's Lotus Sutra in interfaith context, right? 10 months ago. So there, I put his passage. This is something I love about. This is something we learned in the Lotus Sutra lab as well. Let me hold it for you.
The teachings of the Buddha in no way oppose the teachings of Christ or Muhammad or the sages like Confucius, Mencius, and Lao Tzu. Those great saints and sages are likewise manifestations of the Buddha, and one can clearly see that their teachings are manifestations of the teachings of the Buddha. This is not simply my interpretation because I'm a Buddhist. Because the original Buddha, eternal Buddha, is neither arising nor perishing and is the fundamental law that gives life to all things. There can be no teaching that is not embraced by the fundamental law and no law other than the fundamental law. Consequently, those who make exclusivist claims that Buddhism is the real thing and consequently there is no value in Christianity, for instance, are not true Buddhists. That which is correct regardless of whose teaching it is. That which is true regardless of who teaches it. Since all great people who guide sentient beings according to the correct teachings and messages of truth are revered as Buddhas, there can be no opposition to them. Very powerful.
What comes to your mind?
Well, as a person who studied to be a Christian minister, who comes from 3 generations of Christian ministers, my great-grandmother founded, and my great-grandmother, great-grandfather founded 5 churches which exist still in New York City on my mother's side. And my father's mother was a minister as well, a unity minister, and she founded a church in Brooklyn. So I come from 2 strains of ministers on both sides of my family. All my great-aunts were ministers. My grandmother was a minister. All of them. So I look at it very simply. Founder, my own experience accords with what founders say. My own experience. So it's not that I always say, well, what are you doing? What's you see the difference between Buddhism and Christianity? No, Christ said a very important passage, and this was the key one for me personally as a Buddhist. It says, when people attack you, turn the other cheek. And my question was, how do you do that? I'm upset. Buddhism teaches you how to do that. The process of handling one's anger and properly applying one's joy. See, we can use love or joy as a prison to trap someone. I love you, so you must do as I say. Right? So your joy and your love can be a prison too. So you have to. So Buddhism teaches us to reflect on ourselves, to make it possible to turn hatred to love, not to hide it or suppress it, or to be. I'm not going to be mad at that person. Right. So that's what that passage tells me. Because at its core, all of the great masters are speaking according, whole ben again, skillful means to the people that they spoke to.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
He's not going to speak, Jesus is not going to speak to the people in the Middle East, in the Palestinian region, as people were speaking, as Shakyamuni was in India or Nepal. It's not. They're different people, different cultural matrix. And so imitation, we don't imitate the Buddha. Right? We don't imitate Founder Niwano. Oh, he wore this tie, so I will wear this tie. Right? No. That's mimicry. No, we embody the truth and express it for ourselves to be our true, authentic self. And that's why he's saying, no, regardless of Confucius or Mencius or Lao Tzu or Muhammad, whoever it is, all are expressing their true self. And they're speaking the truth. And we don't have to make a fuss about it.
Right. Could you tell me more about your religious background, spiritual background, and at what point in your life and why you encountered the Buddhism? You're the vice president of the Buddhist Council in New York.
My background is, I think that my whole life was to give me a chance to prepare me to practice Rissho Koseikai. My great-grandmother was born a slave in the United States. And she became educated on her own, met her husband, and they founded churches. They became church people. So why am I going that far back? Because I'm a continuation of them. They trained my grandmother, who was a minister, on my mother's mother, and my father's mother was a minister. And so I'm a continuation of them. What does that mean? Even in the midst of the greatest suffering, that's why I start slavery. Slavery is not just negative, not slavery itself is bad, but they're overcoming slavery through joy is one of great victory through Christianity. So as a little boy, 4 or 5, my grandmother would sit me on the lap and teach me Christian stories, read them to me before I even go to church. So that's where my spiritual beginning outwardly and connection with my grandmother, her open-heartedness to me, teaching me what she learned from her mother and father. Right? So my mother didn't like the strictures that were in the fundamental Christians that they had. They often would demonize women and things like that. So my mother said, I'm not listening to this stuff. And her sister became a leader in the Transcendental Meditation movement with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. She became a teacher of Transcendental Meditation. She traveled around the world with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. She learned many different meditation techniques. You know, she could have spiritual experiences. She could leave her body and all this kind of thing. So my mother also learned Transcendental Meditation. When I was about 8 or 9, 10, something like that, I learned meditation, a walking meditation that they gave you with a mantra. And then when I was about 12 or 13, I had a seated meditation. So I'm a little older than 13 now, so I'm a little bit older, closer to the end than the beginning. But I've been meditating, at least knowing about meditation, from someone who was a meditation master, my aunt, since I was a little boy.
See,
right?
Yeah.
So she became a Buddhist. In between that, I went to school at a school called Brooklyn Friends School, which is a Quaker school. And I was the clerk of the Quaker meeting there. All right? That ran the school. In those days, the students and the teachers worked together in harmony, in silence. That's how Quakers practice. Revering and honoring the inner light of each person. Sounds very familiar, right? Right? And so we sat in silence. And you only spoke when the spirit or the inner light told you to speak. So I was the clerk, which is like the head of the student government for the entire school. And there were many, many difficulties that we had. So I got well known for doing certain things. But it gave me great training. It gave me great training for doing that. Right? So why am I saying that? That Quaker experience enabled me to understand Buddhism's idea of interacting with the Buddha nature. And it also made me reluctant to think I had to be the boss, because there was no boss. I say the clerk, but the clerk is nothing more than the facilitator. He or she is not higher. You know, he's not like the minister or the priest or something. He's just the facilitator. Say, okay, we're going to begin, we're going to sit down. You know, that kind of thing, right? You have the big job of ring the bell, right? That's it. Right, that's it, right? But he or she becomes skillful because sometimes people get upset or angry, and you have to redirect the anger back to the source of trying to hear the inner light in people. So this was very wonderful training. Wonderful training, especially at a young age, right? Up until 14 to 18. Very powerful training for a young person. So when I went to college, I was still a Buddhist, but I still hadn't joined any official name. I hadn't put my name on it. I think when I graduated in 1988, around that time, because there was I was a victim of racial attacks at Brown University. I went to Brown University, and I graduated in 1988. I then, around that time, became a Buddhist. So my mother left. Then eventually she called me, because I had been at Brown. I was a religious studies major, and she asked me, have you heard of this group called Rissho Koseikai? And I had. Back in 1981, I had heard about Rissho Koseikai. I was like, well, they sit around in something called Hosa. I was like, I don't know Hosa, I don't know anything. It seems a little odd, but they seem like they're a Lotus Sutra group that's focused on trying to bring forth the truth of the Lotus Sutra. That's really what I know. And so she became a member of Rissho Koseikai. And I would do almost like I did in the beginning, accompanying her sometimes to the Dharma Center, going with her, going to events, and then, because once I joined something, I'm 100% committed. And at that point in my life, I didn't want to fool around. You know, this is my life, and we have a short period of time, we're just passing through, you know? And so eventually, over time, I was practicing. And then towards what really was a change, I became a member. And then my mother got very, very sick. She had cancer. She had lung cancer, terminal lung cancer. So, but it wasn't, what it was amazing was, at that time, I had Reverend Camilla was the minister at that time. And it was very difficult for me as my mother was very sick. But what I began to realize, not being good, running away from problems, that the real teachings, real power of Buddhism is to look at problems face to face. You know, so my mother had cancer, then she transitioned. I don't want to take so much time, this is a long time for the story, but I want you to see, that's what got me very involved. Then my mother, 2 weeks before she transitioned, before she passed, she said, Jimmy, your father has memory loss. Can you take care of him? I said, yes, immediately, while she was in the bed in the home. We were taking care of her, me and my father. I said, yes, immediately. And my father lived for another 10 to 11 years after that with increasing memory loss. Sometimes he would get angry and upset and accuse me of things. But what a great joy. I learned so much. You know, he would say to me, he'd knock on the door, even a month before he passed, he'd knock on the door, Jimmy Jr., I feel that I may have offended you. Did I do something? Did I hurt you? I said, Dad, no, nothing. And we'd hug each other, cry. I said, because I'm not too old to be corrected. Listen to what my father said. Up until his last days, I am not too old to be corrected. If I hurt you when you were a little boy and I didn't do, he said, it's never too late for me to apologize. Again, the Buddha's arrangement. So I'm so grateful to Rissho Koseikai. And I get emotional here, not because my father's not here, so I can't go to the next room and get him and say, here he is, right? He's transitioned, right? But his great power is that to his end of his life, he was teaching me. To the end of my mother's life, she was teaching me. I was able to accept the teaching because my life was open. I didn't say, why are you doing this to me? That was the only thing, that I'd be closed off to my mother, closed off to my father's blessing. And now I can see other people have situations, they're suicidal or they have problems. I can be open to them. And I'm not I'm helping you and I've never had a problem. I have financial problems like everyone. I have many difficulties like anyone. That's okay. It's okay. It's what am I going to do with that problem? What's the great benefit that's hidden in that problem? I can't get away. No, on to the next problem. And I run from problem until the end I'm dead. Because that's inevitable. No, what's the purpose of the problem? Why is it here? What can it reveal about my true nature and the nature of that which I'm interacting with? What you said at the beginning, compassion. True compassion, not fake.
But why was it Rissho Koseikai so good fit for you, you felt?
After my previous experience, found in Nuano, respect for everybody. But it's very hard to understand that because when it's happening, it becomes superficial. Everybody says, I like this group, I like that group, but I really know my group is best. It's the way of the world. That's how we are. That's why I put this jacket on. I like this jacket best. Right? You put on your jacket. Individual. We like that.
Right.
The ego. We like it. So it was hard for me to figure out what's he talking about. But that's why it's so important to understand Buddha nature. It's so important to practice. Because when a person comes and sits down next to you, for example, I said it one time, the Hosa man recently came. He was a homeless guy who was my friend. A friend, he worked with me. He was a messenger in the building, but I was friendly to him. And he asked for me to pray. He said, I'm a Christian, so I use the term Jesus because I'm familiar with Christianity. I did whole band, skillful means. I said, well, no, you must get the beads and you'll start praying. I could do that. But he would disconnect. He was so much, his name is Leslie. I still remember his name. It's Leslie, could be man and woman. He said, that could be a man and woman's name, but her name's Leslie, right? I said, yes. To touch people where they are is to open yourself up to their pain. Not to be the boss or the big guy.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So, you ask me why, Rissho Koseikai. It made me do that.
I see.
I've done many different things. I've acted, I've been in rock bands, I've been off Broadway show. So what? The real reason to do all those things is to be open. You know, one of my good friends just died. He had was a big time producer and movie actor and Showtime. It's been on Showtime for 5-7 years. One of my good friend, my roommate in college. He died. Paul Eckstein. He died a month and a half ago.
Oh,
right. So what I'm saying though is none of that matters. What matters is me and you talking now, and us talking to the people there. That's what matters. And once you realize that, then there's no more pressure on you. There's no more pressure on you. You can just show up, treat people well, and do what you're supposed to do, whatever role you've been assigned. You don't have to worry, but they don't want to do this, okay. But you are committed to revering the Buddha nature in other people.
Oh, that's the role?
No, the role, whatever it may be. I may be a teacher. I may be here. We're taping this at the World Parliament of Religions. I'm a trustee, right? And people go, oh, trustee. Oh, it's wonderful that I'm a trustee. I'm not saying that. But that's my role, trustee. But my practice is revering the Buddha nature in every single person I meet here. From the staff that cooks me my food, to the security guards, to people cleaning up, to Marion Williamson, who was running for president. No different. No different. How I treat them may be because of their roles and their responsibilities. But my feeling to them is still, am I open to their suffering? Doesn't matter their title. Minister, none of that matters. Because we're all one. We're all one. Powerful, different way of looking at life. This is radically different than anything else that I see. Because we're not talking about categories. It's beyond notions of categories. This person's a Muslim, this person's Jewish, this person's Christian, this person's Sikh, Baha'i. That's a different way of looking. Oh, they're theirs, but I respect them. No. To say we are one at our source is a big difference. That's why I'm a Rissho Koseikai member.
I see.
Rissho Koseikai makes you look at everything as opportunity. Not as there's a battle between the light and the dark, there's people we've got to put down. But if that's the mindset, that is even a smidgen, then that's the ego which will latch onto that and I'm in the right path and everyone else is going to the bad place. No. So, no, I don't look at it. It's my job to use skillful means to show them more love. It's my job to be more compassionate, to embrace them, and to say, oh, you're doing a very good job. I have freedom, liberation, in some ways from Rissho Koseikai. The term they use in Japan is liberation. Doesn't mean I'm a saint or anything like that. Please make me a saint. I'll take it. It doesn't mean I'm a saint. But I'm liberated from those types of things. And I have a practice to heal myself. I can be honest and open with myself. A lot of times, you said before, we're open with other people. But the first person we need to be open with is ourselves. We have to look at ourselves in the mirror. What do I see? Who am I? Are we asking this critical question? That's where Founder is starting us from. Who are you? Who are you? Are you trapped into some ideas of I have to be this or that? Who am I? So Rissho Koseikai opens up the world of who I am to be the great life of the universe. Powerful difference. Big difference. So no worries. I don't have to do a lot. I just show up. I don't have to fix everything.
Yeah.
Everything doesn't have to be right.
Right.
Lower the tension down. I can, family, wife, children, friends, I don't have to, I can lower myself. I don't have to be the boss. I can humble myself. What people say, oh, so deferential. Yes, I can do so. Powerful distinction. That's Rissho Koseikai. Bringing happiness by lowering the tension, bringing the joy. We started with compassion. What was compassion?
Right.
That's where you started us off.
Right.
This is the compassion. The words are just the labels, which are approximation with the truth. It isn't the truth. compassionate. I'm compassionate. I'm compassionate. But then I beat my family. Nichiren Daishonin, the famous, he said people say they're going to be filial devotion, and then they go home and beat their mother and father with the books. Confucian ethics, right? You're just learning words.
Right.
Theoretical.
Right.
It's no good. You must practice it with your life. That's what Founder's saying. Same thing. You must practice it with your life.
Right.